Kate Kirkpatrick, Becoming Beauvoir, A Life. Prepare to delve into the intriguing life and thought of Simone de Beauvoir, a brilliant French philosopher often overshadowed by her lifelong partner, Jean-Paul Sartre. In this summary of Becoming Beauvoir, A Life, by Kate Kirkpatrick, we will explore the fascinating aspects of Beauvoir's life and the various ways in which she has been misrepresented throughout history. We will come to understand her unique philosophical insights that remain influential today, rooted in addressing the complexities of an authentic and ethical life. Be ready to challenge prevailing perceptions of Beauvoir's life and thoughts, as we see her emerge as a figure whose intellectual prowess is truly her own.
Unraveling Simone de Beauvoir. Often viewed as an intellectual sidekick to her partner Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir was underestimated and misrepresented throughout her life. Her private letters and unpublished journals reveal her immense intellectual contributions and strong independence that were ultimately overshadowed by the societal expectations of women at the time. Imagine the iconic image of French philosopher Simone de Beauvoir, elegantly seated in a Montparnasse café, sipping coffee and scribbling in her notebook, always side by side with fellow existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre. It's challenging to picture one without the other, but this perception also perpetuated the misconception of Beauvoir as a lesser figure, outshined by Sartre's brilliance. In reality, she was a powerful intellectual force in her own right. Throughout her life, Beauvoir faced relentless misrepresentation that diminished her contributions and downplayed her ideas. The prevalent attitudes of the 20th century couldn't fathom a woman who fiercely pursued independence of thought and action. Thus, she was often wrongly portrayed as a submissive partner, with biographers and critics conveniently ignoring her groundbreaking ideas. Recent discoveries, including her previously unpublished student journals and letters to other men, shed light on Beauvoir's true nature. Far from playing second fiddle, her writings reveal that many philosophical ideas attributed to Sartre were explored by Beauvoir beforehand. For example, her early thoughts on the difference between being for myself and being for others heavily parallel the ideas found in Sartre's book, Being and Nothingness. Her personal correspondence further challenges the notion of a complete romantic devotion to Sartre. Though their intellectual bond remained strong, Beauvoir engaged in other significant romantic relationships, including with filmmaker Claude Lanzmann, whom she lived with from 1952 to 1959. Despite these revelations, society continued to undervalue Beauvoir and dismiss her contributions. French culture dubbed her Notre Dame de Sartre, while the New Yorker reduced her to just a pretty face amongst existentialists. Still, Simone de Beauvoir's resilience and defiance of convention remain an enduring testament to her formidable intellect and unwavering sense of independence. Seeds of a Feminist Philosopher. Simone de Beauvoir's curiosity and brilliance were evident early in her life, even as a child. Her upper-middle-class upbringing, exposure to the natural world, and attendance at a prestigious convent school provided the groundwork for her future philosophical ideas. The religious differences between her devout Catholic mother and atheist father introduced the notion of spiritual and philosophical debate, influencing Beauvoir's development as an intellectual. As a believer herself, she embraced Christian values, discovering the idea of egalitarianism, which later influenced her feminist views. By questioning societal norms through literary works such as Louisa May Alcott's Little Women, Beauvoir conceived of love-friendship as the ideal form of love, based on equal exchange of ideas and mutual respect. Beauvoir's faith and philosophy. Young Simone de Beauvoir, once a Catholic believer, questioned her faith upon recognizing the flawed world around her. This journey shaped her existentialist outlook, emphasizing that our actions define us rather than divine intervention. Nevertheless, her faith continued to guide her philosophical pursuit, instilling a deep-seated need to share her revelations for the betterment of humanity. Simone de Beauvoir's early days were spent marveling at the natural world while anchored in her Catholic faith. On her family's country estate, she witnessed the splendid creation of God as the surrounding environment came to life each morning. Young Beauvoir practiced her faith devotedly by attending Mass 3 times a week and maintaining a notebook to record her saintly resolutions. At one point, she even contemplated becoming a nun. However, as Beauvoir transitioned into her teenage years, her once unquestionable faith became flooded with doubts. She realized that God's world contained contradictions and injustices, such as the unfair societal expectations imposed on men and women. Beauvoir observed her father indulging in debauched behavior and her mother working tirelessly to sustain their household. Further distress ensued after an incident at a religious bookstore where an employee exposed himself to her. Instead of attributing society's ills to an omnipotent God, she pondered a godless world. In the face of her diminishing faith, 19-year-old Beauvoir confronted existential questions: how should one navigate life without divine guidance? She began to explore concepts that would later be categorized as existentialist ideas, which prioritized human actions over an all-knowing God's influence. According to Beauvoir, actions serve as the affirmation of oneself, becoming the defining factor of an individual's identity. Despite the erosion of her religious belief, Beauvoir's faith still played an essential role in her philosophical journey. She viewed her role as a philosopher akin to a prophet's mission, carrying within her valuable insights for the benefit of others. This calling would often bring to mind the story of Isaiah, in which God sought a messenger for the people of Israel. When Isaiah responded with, "Here I am. Send me," Beauvoir found her consciousness echoing the same affirmation. Ultimately, Beauvoir's relationship with her faith significantly impacted her philosophical development. Her initial Catholic faith, ensuing existentialist beliefs, and the lingering sense of guidance offered her the foundation to become a transformative thinker and share her wisdom with the world. A Transformative Summer. In the summer of 1926, Simone de Beauvoir experienced a life-changing event that deeply impacted her philosophy. While visiting Lourdes, a Catholic pilgrimage site, she witnessed terrible suffering and was struck with a profound sense of disgust at her own trivial concerns. Initially, she considered a life of self-sacrifice to alleviate the suffering of others, but eventually decided to strike a balance. Beauvoir aimed to live a good and generous life without negating her own existence. This experience led her to question if a moral code based primarily on respect and regard for others could exist, while still allowing individuals the freedom and independence to cultivate their interests. Beauvoir also determined that philosophy should reflect real life, rather than exist in isolation. She believed intellectual accomplishments should address what truly matters, life itself. Hence, she concluded that literature served as the perfect medium to bridge the gap between intellectual understanding and genuine human experience. Through literature, one could effectively convey emotions, experiences, and the nuances of life while simultaneously incorporating philosophical ideals. As a result of her revelations at Lourdes, Beauvoir endeavored to create meaningful literature that espoused her newfound understanding of life, suffering, and the importance of empathy. At just 18 years old, she completed a 68-page novel manuscript called An Attempted Existence. Her transformative experience at Lourdes propelled her life and work, ultimately shaping her profound philosophical journey. The Beauvoir-Sartre Connection. The beginning of Simone de Beauvoir's relationship with Jean-Paul Sartre was marked by misunderstandings and romantic competition. However, Beauvoir was never submissive, establishing herself as his intellectual equal. As a brilliant student, Simone de Beauvoir pursued higher education in philosophy and mathematics, earning her degree at the prestigious Sorbonne in 1928. Afterward, while preparing for the challenging agrégation exam at the renowned École Normale Supérieure, Beauvoir crossed paths with Jean-Paul Sartre. This first encounter, contrary to popular belief, did not immediately set their lives on a collision course. Far from being love at first sight, their initial contact was somewhat lukewarm. Beauvoir admired Sartre's friend, René Mahieu, who she genuinely loved. When Sartre invited her on a date, Beauvoir mischievously sent her sister, Helene, instead, warning her she'd be meeting a man who is short and rather unattractive. It was only when Mahieu failed his exam and left École Normale Supérieure that Sartre seized the opportunity to approach Beauvoir again. Upon getting to know Sartre better, Beauvoir was both surprised and delighted to discover that his school persona as a witty prankster was a mere facade hiding a deeply compassionate and generous man. Their shared passion for philosophy soon sparked a deep bond, and they became lovers. Despite this, Beauvoir still held romantic aspirations for other men, including Mahu. Although Beauvoir's personal diaries yield a conflicting account of her relationship with Sartre, they unequivocally show she wasn't a subordinate figure to him. Fearlessly critiquing Sartre's early work as clumsy, many significant ideas accredited to him were, in reality, inspired by Beauvoir during their heated philosophical debates. Evidently, she was not just his intellectual equal, but in many ways, his muse. Notably, at only 21 years of age, Beauvoir became the youngest person to pass the agrégation exam in École Normale Supérieure. Although Sartre did pass the same year with a marginally higher grade, he was much older, at 24, and had failed the previous year's attempt. In the end, Simone de Beauvoir's achievements and relationship with Sartre showcased her brilliance and formidable character, proving she was far more than a mere companion to the philosopher. Open love's intricate web. In 1929, philosophers Simone de Beauvoir and Jean-Paul Sartre formed an open relationship and began a journey of love, freedom, and self-realization. As they welcomed others into their lives, such as Olga Kozakiewicz, they discovered the delicate nature and complexity of these relationships. Despite this, their lifelong partnership endured, though their reputations were later tarnished by their affairs with female students. Simone de Beauvoir and Jean-Paul Sartre, two of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century, not only forged an intellectual bond but also explored an unconventional romantic adventure. In the summer of 1929, while basking in the beauty of Beauvoir's family estate in Mérignac, they decided to embark on an open relationship, embracing several contingent loves. This choice aligned with their shared belief in a life of freedom and self-realization, making their union even more profound. This mutually agreed arrangement appeared to be a perfect fit for Beauvoir, who already held affection for two other men. The thought of loving multiple people and not settling for a single partner fascinated her. As they journeyed into this experimental relationship, Beauvoir and Sartre encountered others who captivated them, one of whom was the brilliant student Olga Kozakiewicz. As their relationship with Kozakiewicz unfolded, the trio spent considerable time together. But the new dynamic wasn't without complications. Jealousy and insecurity seeped in, leading Beauvoir and Sartre to question the sustainability of their ideals. Despite these trials, their partnership persevered, teaching them that maintaining relationships required continuous care and effort to avoid decay. Throughout their lives, both Beauvoir and Sartre engaged in numerous relationships with their female students. While they believed these women had the freedom to choose such relationships, they failed to consider the power they held over them. Eventually, their actions caught up with them, casting a shadow on their reputations. In the end, the open relationship between Beauvoir and Sartre revealed the complexities of love, freedom, and the delicate nature of human connections, leaving an indelible mark on their philosophies and legacies. Dissecting Beauvoir's Disagreement. Simone de Beauvoir, a French philosopher, found herself in disagreement with Jean-Paul Sartre's existentialist philosophy presented in his 1943 work, Being and Nothingness. Sartre introduced the concepts of facticity and transcendence to explain bad faith and the possibility of moving beyond our personal attributes. However, Beauvoir argued that Sartre's outlook failed to address the power dynamics in society and how they limit an individual's ability to transcend their circumstances. This disagreement profoundly influenced Beauvoir's own work and philosophical contributions, emphasizing the complexities of human freedom. In his influential work Being and Nothingness, Jean-Paul Sartre outlined a philosophical argument centered around two concepts, facticity and transcendence. Facticity pertains to the unchosen personal attributes individuals possess, such as skin color, gender, and family background. In contrast, transcendence reflects the freedom one has to move beyond these attributes. Drawing on these concepts, Sartre explained bad faith as acting inauthentically and suggested that everyone has the potential to rise above their circumstances. Simone de Beauvoir, however, took issue with Sartre's ideas. She questioned how people who experienced oppression due to their facticity, such as being Jewish during the 1930s, could simply transcend their situations. Using the example of a woman confined to a harem, Beauvoir further questioned the extent to which individuals could genuinely achieve transcendence. Identifying the absence of power in Sartre's argument as the critical flaw, Beauvoir posited that not everyone has the ability to choose their fate. While it may seem straightforward to assume humans are inherently free, reality proves much more complex. This disagreement with Sartre led Beauvoir to develop her own philosophical contributions, particularly in her significant essays, Purus and Sines and the Ethics of Ambiguity. In these works, Beauvoir articulated her central argument, that not all people have the option to transcend their circumstances, shaping the foundation of her lifelong contributions to existentialism. Ethical life, Beauvoir's philosophy. Beauvoir's philosophical ideas diverged from Sartre's, specifically on the subject of ethics. Her belief that an ethical life was crucial to one's existence led her to consider the consequences of our actions on others' lives. While Sartre struggled with knowing what to do with freedom, Beauvoir emphasized that seeking freedom as individuals is crucial, but using that freedom responsibly and ethically is paramount. Beauvoir believed that living an ethical life was the cornerstone of her philosophy. Though Sartre prized freedom, he was uncertain about how to apply it in a meaningful and responsible way. This indecision led him to convey a rather bleak and nihilistic perspective in his writings. In contrast, Beauvoir explored the importance of our actions and their consequences in her essay, Purus and Sines. Using the story of the ancient king Pyrrhus and his advisor Sines, she highlights the significance of understanding the impact our actions have on other people's lives. Choosing to conquer the world, for example, would yield immense power over others' lives, while staying at home and getting drunk would not. The question, therefore, is not whether we have freedom, but how we choose to utilize it. While Sartre infamously declared that hell is other people, Beauvoir embraced the idea of coexistence. She believed that a world without connections to others would be a deplorable place indeed. Her philosophy emphasized not only seeking freedom for oneself but also recognizing the way our actions affect those around us. With this realization, Beauvoir concluded that we must strive to use our freedom ethically. Our decisions and actions shape the conditions under which others live their lives, so it's vital that we make choices that take their well-being into account. Ultimately, Beauvoir's philosophical viewpoint was rooted in the pursuit of freedom and personal responsibility. We should all strive for individual freedom while considering the impact our choices have on others, using that liberty responsibly and ethically.
In sum, Becoming Beauvoir, A Life sheds light on Simone de Beauvoir's life, largely overshadowed and misrepresented due to society's preconceived notions about women at the time. This summary reveals her distinct philosophical ideas, which were bold and significant in their own right, and not merely a product of Sartre's influence. As we've seen, Beauvoir's early experiences, dynamic relationship with Sartre, and unique perspective on ethical life all contributed to shaping her life and work. At the heart of Beauvoir's philosophy lies the notion of striving for individual freedom, but exercising that freedom responsibly and ethically, a message that continues to hold relevance today.